Esther Grunspan arrived in Köln with a hardened heart as her sole luggage. An uncommonly sweltering September day was her welcome, as well as a language that sounded like her native Yiddish, yet foreign in structure and comprehension. A formidable determination guided her actions. Stancia. Ich darf a stancia. Lodging. I need lodging, Esther demanded of the first person in uniform that crossed her path. Wo kann ich opsuchen stancia? Where can I find lodging? Her articulation was clear and direct, emphatic. Quizzical, the man's eyes skimmed this plain-faced young woman from her faded, long-sleeved cotton frock with wide, rounded collar to her scuffed, lace-up shoes. Small in stature, with thick blonde hair pulled away from her face in a tight bun. She was unadorned and clearly out of place. Was? Ich verstehe Sie nicht. I don't understand you, he said, waving her away and pointing toward the train terminal. Without a note of thanks, Esther headed in the direction he indicated. Once inside the terminal, she strode through the cavernous building to consider every booth, kiosk, and stand until she found a corner counter with a large sign overhead announcing Informationen. This was close enough to the Yiddish Informatie for Esther to push her way to the front of the line, disregarding the glares and loud protests of those in her way. She paid them no heed. Patience was no longer a part of her framework. It had been displaced by entitlement and self-preservation. The recent, devastating turn of events, Tadeusz's action, his rejection, and such a public spurn of her, of them, of all their plans, had shaped an impossibly conceived scenario. Esther's one priority now was Esther. She repeated her request to the man behind the counter 3 times. Each time she enunciated every syllable more precisely, then more slowly, but colored by rising frustration. The official, while clearly annoyed, noticed her youth and asked, Wie alt sind Sie? Alt? Esther thought quickly. Alt. Old. Just like in my language. Although the other words made no sense, she correctly assumed he was asking her age. Siebzehn, she said. The man shrugged his shoulders, rolled his eyes, and turned to help the person next in line. Esther leaned over and grabbed the pen on his desk. In clear, thick lettering, she wrote the numbers 1 and 7 on her palm. Standing on the tips of her shoes, she stretched her left arm high and held it up close to his face. With a snort, he reached into a pile under his desk and thrust a piece of paper in Esther's expectant hands. She looked intently at the page's Gothic script and line drawing of a building. This must be a place for young people to stay, she deduced, for next to a name and address, 16 to 22 was printed. A map of the area with a large X seemed to mark its location. Expressing no appreciation, Esther turned quickly, jostled the 3 people beside her, and ventured out into her first metropolis. A location as far away from all she had ever known as her meager resources enabled. A place with an assurance of anonymity and seclusion. If she could still muster gratitude for anything, it would be for this. And in the only way anguish can be subdued, if not entirely vanquished, Esther never stopped moving during those first self-exiled months. She couldn't. She could not allow herself to sit idle, not even for a few minutes, for if she did, memories of him, of them, of what was, would deluge her mind. Emotions that she now strained to destroy or deny ever existed would take over, and she would be rendered helpless, powerless, as she had been, and as she promised herself she would never be again.